What's going on, everybody? BouseFeenux here, and today we're going to do something a little different. This is a character guide for the Berserker, and a couple things first. I know he's getting a change soon. We don't know if that's going to be a buff or a nerf. A lot of people are speculating that it's going to be a buff in the form of giving him some kind of unblockable attack, which would be really cool. It's something that he definitely needs. He's probably one of the only characters, I think, that doesn't have one, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with him in that respect. But for those of you that want to pick the class up, start learning a little bit about it, start playing it before that change comes so you can kind of get your feet wet with him. I wanted to put this guide together, and then whenever the change comes out, whenever that's going to be, whatever it is, I'll make a little update video on it, and this video will probably have a card linking to that whenever, that happens. But anyway, I wanted to do this unscripted because I figured it would be easier and more organic to just show you guys and talk through it as I'm doing it instead of just recording footage and then doing it later. But for that, we've got the Isaac training bot here. She's a little PK. She's going to help us out and take some hits for us. I'm going to run you guys through some of the mix-ups and the moveset of this character, but let's take a look at his moveset real quick and some of his hero-specific stuff that he gets. So he's only got 2 chains. We've got Dance of the Paired Blades, which is interesting. It starts off of a heavy or a light, and if you alternate light and heavy attacks, it's an infinite combo. So heavy, light, but if you do a light, it messes up. So if you do 2 of the same attacks, it'll stop doing it. But so heavy, light, and so on. Now, if you notice, he starts to flash after like the 3rd or 4th hit. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4th hit, you get hyper armor, and your attacks become uninterruptible. This is really nice when you're just wailing on somebody, and it's like a 2v1 situation, or something like that. If it's just you and you're fighting 2 other people, and their buddy comes up and tries to hit you, you're not going to get knocked out of your attack there, and you can just keep wailing away on whatever opponent you're fighting. You're not really going to use... A lot of, beginning Berserker players will just try to throw this combo out here and try to do the spammable infinite chain. Good players will parry the 2nd or 3rd hit of this pretty much every time. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways on how to mix this up. But let's take a look at the rest of his moveset here in just a second. So Bear Mauler is his other one. That's just 3 heavies. And then that last one is really delayed, so sometimes that catches people off guard. Some people have the timing down for it and know how to parry it. There you go. The top heavy is really slow, so sometimes you usually catch people with that. I've been in a lot of times, there's a lot of times I've gotten hit by that because the parry timing is so weird for it. But yeah, that's Bear Mauler, and let's see what else we got. We've got Boar Rush, which is just his running heavy. So if you just run into the heavy, there you go. Pretty simple. Head Slicer. That's his dash forward and light attack, so like this. And then he's also got a variant on this one where it's a heavy attack too, so you can do the dash forward and heavy. And both of these, if you notice he flashes when you do this, both of these get heavy hyper armor, so that's really cool. Never initiate fights with this, ever. Even the light one. I'll show you how to incorporate these attacks into fights and when to use these, but let's cover the rest of the moveset here real quick. So Head Crusher. That's the one that I just showed you. That's the dash forward heavy. And then also we've got the Slashing Rush, which is just his zone attack, but backwards. So everybody's seen the spin to win zone attack like this. He gets hyper armor during the last hit of that, which is really nice. But you can also do it backwards. So if you're moving backwards and you press the zone attacks, which is heavy and light at the same time, he'll do a backwards one. This isn't really super useful. I mean, if you're getting ganged up on, you can use it to get out of a situation. Just, kind of get some hit off. Maybe you'll get one of these, if anything. If you're fighting against another Berserker that does this, even if you're getting hit, you can still deflect. Or if you're playing any of the other assassins, actually, you can still deflect the last hit of that, which is really cool. But that is pretty much it for the moves. He's only got the 2 chains and then some dashing moves here. Super simple character and on paper, right? Not a whole lot going on. And then his hero specific, he's got deflect like all assassins, which is kind of useful in some situations, but it's not as useful as it could be. I think that Berserker actually has the most useful deflect because it transitions into a free guard break, which is really cool. He's got, the assassin plague here where he can't hold his stance. When you switch to a guard stance, it goes away after a while. So you have to time your block, of course. So if you've never played Assassins before, this is something that's going to be really hard for you to get used to. But to make up for that, you've got a lot of speed and you've got your deflect, which is very high risk, very high reward. So anyway, uninterruptible chain, infinite chain finisher. A top heavy attack always ends in infinite chain. So if you're doing the Dance of the Pair Blades like this, and you want to end it, you do a top heavy, and that ends the chain. So, and conversely, you can't start any chains from a top heavy. So once you do a top heavy, like, you're super, super open. So only do this, like, when someone's facing away from you, or it's like a 2v1 scenario where it's in your favor and, you know, the opponent goes to hit, you just throw this in. Or if you get a guard break and they're out of stamina and you knock them down, that is a good time to do that. Sometimes it misses, though. So the best thing to do is go like this. So you do the two heavy, or the side heavy, and then the top heavy. My dead zones are really bad, but there we go. And then if they're on the ground, if you knock them down with the punch, that usually gets them. Another thing, too, before we move on, the Berserker throw actually does a little bit of damage. If you notice, we're doing some damage to the bot here. Any direction. It's not just punch forward. So side, back, whatever. It all does damage, which is really nice. I've actually killed people with that before. They're on their last little bar of health, and you're out of stamina, but you still manage to get a guard break in. You throw them, and they just fall over dead. It's pretty funny. Anyway, so that's the moveset. We got the big things here are the bear mauler. And I know that's like really slow, and you're like, dude, Bouse, the second hit of that is always going to get parried. And it will, but let me show you how to use it. So, and then you got your Dance of the Parried Blades, which is basically this. So really the theory here is you don't want to throw out any heavy attacks unless you get somebody in a guard break. So you don't want to throw out naked light attacks either. So what does that leave you? It leaves you with feints. Berserker, in my opinion, has probably one of the strongest feint games in this game, even stronger than Kensei. And I got Kensei to rep 6, and I thought his feint game was strong, and I started playing Berserker, and I saw how people, like, really good people play Berserker. I was like, holy crap. So let's take a look at some of how that works. This is usually how I start a fight. So what you can do is you can throw out a heavy to the side, and then you throw out a light attack to follow it. So feint a heavy, and then you get your light attack in. Like that. And this will throw people off a lot. You just change the direction you want that light attack to go, and Berserker is a really button-heavy class, so like the input for that is right on the analog stick, right trigger, B, and then a direction, and then light attack. So there's a lot going on there. But this usually throws people off a lot. And then another thing you can do is you can cancel any heavy attack by dashing. So you start it, and this has the indicator pop up. So let's say like, oh, he would never throw out a top heavy, would he? Nope, I wouldn't, because I'm going to dash. So you can throw out those and then dash around, so... And then you just kind of go through your rotation on them, and you run out of stamina, because Berserker has really bad... all of his attacks take a lot of stamina, and you're feinting a lot, so your stamina is going to go bye-bye real quick, especially if you get parried. So anyway, that's one of the strategies you have to start fights with. It's just that feint, and the heavy feint into a light attack. So get really comfortable with that. Get really comfortable with the muscle memory for it. If you never played this character before, the switching between light and heavy attack constantly is going to be kind of difficult to get used to. Like, I know coming from Kensei, it was really tough. But once you get it down, trying to go back to any other character is just kind of ridiculous. So let's talk about if you open them up, right? Like, let's say you get a parry and then you get a guard break. What do you do after a guard break? Well, here is my favorite thing. And there's a couple different options you have after a guard break. So let's get our guard break. Let's throw our heavy, throw another heavy feint, guard break again, and then maybe you throw out another guard break to mess with them. So like this, guard break, heavy, feint, guard break, heavy. And some people, you can get this on multiple times. Eventually, though, they will catch on, maybe after like the second one. And you'll pretty much be out of stamina after that anyway. So let's take a look at that again. So guard break. And then you're heavy, so you're out of stamina here. Let me get back. All right. So guard break. Feint, grab. Feint, grab. And then you throw that one out. Now, before you run out of stamina, what you can do, this is what I usually do. So grab, grab. And then you throw out a light, and then maybe throw a heavy in there, and then guard break them. Sometimes you actually get that out of stamina heavy. Sometimes people forget that they can block it, and you'll get it. The worst case scenario, you get parried sometimes, but most people just block it because they don't want to mess with it. But yeah, so you got a lot of mix-up options. Always remember that after a heavy feint, you can always throw out a light attack. So, and then like that. So if you want to dash around them, do the spin chop. That's what I like to do a lot. So let me get my stamina back here real quick. So you'll feint a heavy in one direction, feint a heavy, grab, bam. A lot of times you're out of stamina, though, so that's really hard to follow up with that second one. So that's a bad habit for me, is trying to throw out of stamina attacks. I'm trying to get out of that one myself. So what a good idea to do is, if you actually land that other, like, out of stamina guard break on them, just give them a toss. It'll do a little bit of damage. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's still a little bit of damage. Keeps them on their toes. It puts some distance between you two. So, you know, if it's like a PK, usually you'll throw them, and they'll see they're out of stamina, and they'll always try to do that jumping overhead. You just parry them, and then you go back into your rotation when you get stamina back. But yeah, that's pretty much like the rotation, is you get into those heavies, and then you feint those into guard breaks, or you feint them into lights. So you never want to throw out naked heavies unless you got them in a guard break. So he's got so many mix-up options because you can alternate the heavy and the light attacks there. Really nice character, really strange to get used to just because of the infinite combo thing, but once you get it down and you kind of see the potential, and you can get really creative with some of these mix-ups here because there's so many options you have. Against a good player, it's really hard to open them up, though, with just light attacks, because, you know, if they catch on, they're just going to block you. It's going to be hard for them to get parries off on those lights. Some players can do it, but it's going to be really frustrating, and you'll have to get super creative. And if they start doing that, like if they start getting the blocks off on your light attacks, just go on the defensive. Try to get a deflect in. Try to get a parry in if you can. That's going to be your best bet to open them up. You know, if offense doesn't work, always try defense. But it's really nice to play a character that has a solid set of offensive options here. Really fun to use. So now that we kind of took a look at the moveset and some of the mix-ups you got, let's take a look at some of his gear here and kind of the build that I'm going for. All right, so I've got Berserker at gear score 80 right now. I don't really have the steel to get him to 108, and I don't have all the pieces I need for my setup yet. But let's take a look at our stats overview. It's going to be down here on the right-hand side. We've got debuff resistance and exhaustion recovery. We want negative revenge mode duration. That's just a player preference on my part. I tend to go with negative revenge mode duration because if you're getting spammed in like a 2v1 or 3v1 or more, you get that auto parry, which is really nice, and not having any unblockables. The Berserker doesn't really have a whole lot of options in Revenge, so you can't get people on the ground unless you get a guard break on them, which if you're in Revenge, I mean, you should be doing other things. So short Revenge mode duration so you can keep popping it, keep getting those invulnerability frames, and you're pretty much good to go. So on the next piece, which is the chest, we've got low execution health regen, block damage, and then sprint speed. So block damage and sprint speed are the two. I might actually swap to get sprint speed highest. It kind of just depends on your preference, though. Execution health regen is helpful sometimes, but if you're playing in like 4v4 mode or something, there's usually buffs around. I don't really worry about it too much. On the arms, we've got block damage resistance, and then we've got stamina regen. I do want to find a piece that takes away the block damage resistance because there was a couple posts that were going around saying how useless block damage resistance is. I haven't tested it myself, but from the math that they did, it makes a lot of sense, so I'll have to see. But revive speed is super useful in 4v4, especially if, like, you know, both teams are breaking and you can revive a couple teammates quickly. That can mean the difference between winning and losing. But you definitely want stamina regen on your gear for sure. Like you saw in the just the bot footage, that was without gear stats. I mean, your stamina goes bye-bye really quick when you're fainting a lot, and having stamina regen is massively helpful. So as far as weapons go, we have the right head. Definitely going to go full attack on that one, and then you got defense. Stamina cost reduction I'm not super worried about because on the other piece of gear, we have the exhaustion recovery and the stamina regen. So I think that kind of covers, it's kind of the lesser two evils, but I think it pretty much covers what we're missing there. On the handles, we've got revenge mode defense and revenge gained by defense. Unfortunately, we're in the revenge meta. I kind of hate it, but I mean, in order to stay alive and not get absolutely clobbered in, you know, 4v4 modes or whatever, you really need the revenge mode gain. On the left head, these are definitely not the stats that I want. I really don't care about throw distance because Berserker throw distance is really bad already. It's not super great. But I just haven't found a piece of gear yet that has the revenge mode attack and the revenge gained by injury. When I do find it, though, it's going to have the prioritized revenge mode attack, and it's going to have secondary revenge gained by injury. So then we have max revenge gain, low revenge duration, max attack, good defense, stamina regen, and exhaustion recovery, and then some sprint speed and block damage. So Not a bad setup. This really works out for me in the 4v4 modes, or the gear stat modes, I guess some people call them. It's all player preference, though. Like, if you find a different build works out for you better, go for it. But really, you really, at the core of it, like with any character, you're going to want the revenge gain. It's just kind of the meta that we're in right now. But yeah, like I said, guys, really dig this character. He's a lot of fun. I hope this guide was helpful. I want to do some gameplay analysis videos so you can see more of this in action. Like, I know we just did this against the bot, but I just wanted to show you guys the rotation and some of the mix-ups you can do. I'll show you guys in practice how this stuff works in another video. We'll do a match analysis because you guys seem to really like those. Last one I did was with Kensei. The next one that's going to come out will be with Berserker, and whenever he gets his, I guess, fix or change, we'll see how that goes, and we'll see what it's like. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope this was helpful. If some of you out there are longtime Berserker players, been playing a lot longer than me, and you got anything else to add, leave them down below. I always appreciate constructive criticism, constructive being the key word. But yeah, guys, don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new here, and until next time, I'll see you guys at the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.